We are live, and in today's video, we're going to talk about why the world suffers when you don't make enough money. Let's get into it.
Hey, yeah, it's all about wealth engineering. Might be something that you're not used to. It's okay, cause I'm here to introduce you to concepts. Time to grow and make big moves. All about crypto, come see. Stocks and business, yes indeed. Got the info that you need. Hosted by my homie JC. Hey, yeah, wealth engineering. Stacking and stacking it up. It's time to generate wealth. Till you living like Scrooge McDuck. Hey, wealth engineering. It's time to show you the game. Till you living like Richie Rich. Till you ballin' like Bruce Wayne. Hey, you ain't gotta be an expert, no problem. It don't really matter where you at, just start it. It'll take time, hard work, and
What's up, guys? This is JC, and welcome to the Wealth Engineering Podcast. This is where I create content so that you can learn how to make, keep, and multiply money for the purpose of building generational wealth and retiring early. But, as we're talking about retirement, let's say you get there, you might be bored, right? Retirement can be boring sometimes. You might want to do something. So, one of the ideas that I've always thinking about is maybe helping a foundation, whether it's with times or with financially means. And if you build your network to the point where you have more money than you need, then some of that can actually go to foundation and help the world. Now, today we're going to talk about foundations, right? Why is it important to make a lot of money? And because you can get the lifestyle that you want and still comfortably give to other people that need it more than you. So that's a subject that I really care about, and I don't. It's not really discussed in a financial world. It's not really discussed in financial YouTube, but I kind of want to bring it to the topic too. And this channel we cover a wide range of wealth, building wealth, keeping wealth, but part of this wealth is also transfer, right? You got to transfer it somewhere, whether you transfer it to your other generation, or part of your legacy could be working with a foundation or building your own foundation to help solve problems that you don't necessarily agree with in the world, that you want to improve in the world. And sometimes if you don't necessarily have all the time to commit, well, maybe you can find someone you trust, right? Someone you trust to do it for you. And sometimes this might be a better investment than paying taxes, right? Who knows? Because we all know about corruption. We all know about the politicians. They try to make uh, just focus on re-election as opposed to solving real problems out there. And one of the advantage of being an entrepreneur or an investor is to be able to change the world, impact the world by improving and building solutions. And some of that could simply allocate that money to someone who can make better use of it. So that's basically the topic we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to invite someone on a panel to discuss more about it. But first, I got to say, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. This is a pre recorded show. So my guest today is working on a different time that I wanted to respect her time and still find and invite her on the panel to have this conversation because she's very experienced in this topic and she can give us an insight that we may not necessarily hear on the media, right? So that's what the new media is for, and let's get into it. So I'll be in the chat with you guys, saying hi, commenting as well, and then we'll have a watching party in the chat. So shout out to you in advance. And without further ado, let me introduce to you my guest for today, Mrs. Karen Ulysse. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much. Now,
Thank
and
you.
for those who may not know you, could you tell a little bit about yourself, what you do, and go from there?
Yes, before I start, I want to say thank you for being so accommodating. I know it's it's a first for you, but I really appreciate it and it hasn't gone unnoticed. So I'm Karin. I spent the first 14 years of my life in Haiti and the first 7 of those years in Cite Soleil, where
Hmm.
my father now has a 31-year-old hospital. Those 14 years, I can tell you, have shaped who I am. And I didn't appreciate all the ups and downs at the time, but now as you go through, when you feel like you're called to a higher purpose, right? You'd
Hmm.
have to do the work that comes with it, the emotional intelligence work and all that stuff. So those 14 years after realizing what my calling was, have shaped who I am today. So I'm a mother of one. I have a son. I'm tough on him. He's a black man in America, and he's a black man in the world. And being a black woman in this world, from my perspective, I do what I can along with his dad. My entire dream, despite all my philanthropic work, I just want to be a grandma. That's all I ask God for every night. Just I just want to live long enough to be a grandma. So that's a summary. Oh, I have a master's in education, math and science. I love children,
Okay.
and yeah,
All
that's
right.
a
All right.
summary.
Let me ask you this. So, what are you currently? And by the way, for those who don't know, guys, I actually met her in my high school. Right when I was in Haiti, I met her in my high school, and she grew up to be a beautiful lady.
Thank you.
I actually follow her on Instagram, and I've been amazed with the amount of work and dedication. And now, just like me, she started or found her calling in entrepreneurship. For her, it was more on the foundation route, but people that operates in this world are still entrepreneurs. They don't necessarily operate on profit. They just put all
Yeah.
that profit back into the business, and that shows you also a level of ethics and morals that only a
Yes.
certain amount of people can do. Right? It takes a certain soul to see money coming in and put all of it back for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say personally, watching it from far, it's an honor for me to have you on this panel,
Thank you.
and especially as a friend growing up in Haiti, and I'm very proud of what I see, and that's what I want to promote too. You're an inspiration to me, to Asian people, and yes, I want to also use my platform to help in any way I can. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And some things you just have to say in Creole. L'homme une femme bail pour pas faire loin. So thank you.
No
No,
worries.
really, I appreciate that. People don't understand how much just opening the door to a conversation in today's
Exactly.
media, like this does so much for the for whoever is gonna listen to it. It's another perspective that's not in the news. So thank you.
No worries. So let me start with an easy question.
Thank you.
Walk me back in those days. I mean, I know personally how you were in high school, but for those who didn't know, like, what were you thinking about in high school, and how did you think you were going to make money? I mean, I know in Haiti, Asian people will want you to be a doctor
Oh
or a
yeah.
lawyer. So how was that for you? Like, what were you thinking about career wise and then making money?
At the very first, we know how the Haitian culture was, right? If I wasn't in the Haitian culture, I would have been a vet.
Okay.
Cause so needless to say, at 8 years old, when I'm telling my mom, it's like, I know what I want. I love animals. Because
Okay.
I'm going to be a vet.
What's your
I'm
favorite
gonna
animal?
let you fill in the blank because a vet is not a doctor per Haitian standard. It's not an engineer. It's not a lawyer. So that experience, I was like, damn, I'm not going in the medical field whatsoever because I didn't like to see people suffer. So
Mm,
I love animals. I wanted to make them feel better because they can't communicate, but I
exactly.
cannot see someone who can communicate that pain, if
Mm,
that makes sense.
that
So
makes
I
sense.
knew helping people somehow, I knew that's what it was going to be, but I've always wanted to be on the teaching aspect of things.
Mm,
Even in my classroom, I was the one who was tutoring people. If I had extra money for lunch, there's this lady behind the gate. I used to try to take her baby home to take care of them. So I knew it had to be something with babies, something with education.
okay.
I didn't have a picture yet, but I just saw myself surrounded by babies and children and just teaching what I know.
All right.
Um,
Well, that's
yeah,
awesome.
that's what I was. That's how it was broad at the time, but I knew it was education and
All
kids.
right. So, walking back in those days, what are you doing now to basically generate income or sustain the current lifestyle you have? So, what are you doing right now to make money? Or
Until 2007, I'll go into the right now. I was a teacher, so I went into it into I guess that aspect of my life to become a teacher.
all right.
And but since take Jesus Christ,
No worries. No worries.
sorry, since taking over, well, learning to take over for my father's hospital, I'm doing part time teaching.
Mm-hmm.
because I want to be in the classroom. I want to hear how the kids think. It's important.
Mm.
Sorry. So I'm doing part-time teaching, and my father, thank God, he's always been business minded. So he has several investment properties. So I guess in a way I can say uh, I manage the family's estate for a fee. So that's how I live my life.
Hey, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I get it now. I get it. So now, especially in real estate, right? You got like residual income coming in,
Yes,
rent money. So
yes,
if you manage that, you get a fee. It's it kind of free your time in a way.
it does.
And
It
time
does.
is a huge factor when it comes to
It
what your
is.
current
It's
line of
like you
work.
find you
We'll
have
get
to be.
we'll
Also,
get
I
into
just
that.
said
Don't
to
worry.
say it's
We'll get into
important.
that very quickly. Though I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
what is your favorite animal?
Oh my gosh, I have so many, but I'm going to say a dog.
Really?
But a second, it would be a duck. I like ducks.
You like
So
ducks?
if I could pick two, it would be a dog and a duck. I don't
That
know.
that means you never eat duck.
No, I do, but
Oh,
they're
okay.
cute too.
Oh my God, Karine, how do you
I
mean
don't
you eat
eat
ducks and then you love them?
dog,
Oh, I mean
but
you
I don't
love them
eat
in
dog.
more ways than one. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And lastly, before we move to the main topic today,
Okay,
I always ask this to all my guests, right?
okay.
Based on those high school days when you were thinking about helping people, helping animals, versus what you're currently doing right now, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned in your journey so far?
Tune out the noise.
To knock, I mean, turn off the
Tune
noise.
out.
Oh,
Tune
tune
out
out,
the noise.
tune out the
Because
noise.
I feel our desires, our children, as children, are the purest representation of our hearts.
Mm,
And then we have our parents telling us, no, that's not a doctor, engineer, lawyer. So you're shutting down that part of you. Like we're put on this earth to do that one thing. And children, they tell you the truth. They see, they feel everything. And then we like, oh shit, I gotta get married now. So now
mm,
you have to switch off that childhood vision of yours to fit that fatherhood vision. So it's
mm.
tune it all out. If you find yourself in the position to just, I don't know what I want to do, but it was just tune it all out and then go back to what was that very first thing
That's
that always, yeah,
That's a
that's the
very
lesson.
deep man. That we could do an entire podcast just on that alone. I'm
That's it.
I'm
It's
ser-
true.
I'm serious because I can relate so much with what you just said. I gotta think about a way to do a podcast on that too. That's a good
Okay,
idea.
yeah, tune out the noise.
But I here's what I got from what you said. Right. Um, I agree with you 100%, 200% that there is a child in you, right? There is a child in all of us. And as we
Hmm.
grow up, we tune to kill that child, for lack of
Yeah.
better word, to become who we meant to be. Sometimes that can lead us to dive away from those dreams and visions.
Yes.
And me, I was born a dreamer. I'm still a dreamer. And some of my dreams are so big I get tell all the time they don't make sense to do in one lifetime. So,
Nah, tune
so
that out. Tune all of that out.
of course, but one of
Yeah.
the process I had to do before I found my life purpose was to actually connect back with that lost child that was in me. And that lost child was someone who was ashamed of having electricity. I'm sure you know in Haiti, it's a
Mm-hmm.
country that is at night it's all in darkness. There's no light.
Mm-hmm.
But I was one of the lucky few people who had a tool that allowed me to save electricity and use it like a power inverter, a generator,
Mm-hmm.
solar panels. We had all that in Haiti. You had to walk 3 miles away to find someone who had all three of the things that I just mentioned, and
Right.
10 miles to if you add a computer, internet, and all that. That's the level of, it wasn't necessarily wealth, but it was a level of comfortability and abundance
It's
compared to people. And I felt ashamed of having all that. And what I would do to mitigate that is to invite as many people, as many kids, as many people as possible, and to share that wealth with me. To
Wow.
and that was my way of dealing with that. But as I was doing that, I was very happy to see other people sharing what I had, and that's how I decided to become an electrical engineer, because I wanted to figure out how
Wow.
to give light to other people in Haiti. And it turns out that I found other ways of doing it, not just light, but also knowledge and how to build that for each people. And still, but it's still the same kid, right? It's still the
It
same kid
is.
who wanted to help people in different ways. And I can relate a lot with that, because life often will try to kill that kid within you.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing
Especially
that.
men. Especially men.
I agree.
Especially men.
I agree.
So I'm glad you found yours.
Thank you very
It's
much.
awesome to hear.
But let me switch it back to you, and tell me
Yeah.
more about your journey of because now you're managing also. I see on social media. Can you tell us a little bit quickly about the hospital you're running, your foundation? Like, how does that part
hmm
work?
Well, it started with the hospital. It's my father's. He started it 31 years old, um, 31 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and took over. Well, practically taking over this year at 31 years old myself. So it's yeah, it's been one amazing year, significant,
Mm,
symbolic year. So 31 years ago, same thing. Listening to his childhood self, they grew up poor, one of 10. He was the second of 10. Always had to share with all his brothers, and he understood that even if he had it bad, some people had it worse.
mm-hmm.
So just to go into his character, um, went into priesthood, opened a hospital as his community service, and he's an engineer himself. Every time he got a contract, the bonus he put into the hospital.
Mm,
So, and this is how we've never had any help with the government. I'll tie it in, I promise. Any help from the government, and it's all literally his blood, sweat, and tears in there.
mm,
And I lead with that to say that everything I do is to make sure that those 31 years of sacrifice aren't in vain. So I don't want to be the one stepping in and drop the ball after
mm,
31 years of the grind. So to make sure that this hospital is here for another 300 years, I founded the foundation, and I called it, because now you know how things are done in Haiti. It's done quickly. You don't know, see, has if there's going to be a paylock, a shutdown for a week or two or three. So
yeah.
whenever things are functioning, you have to move quickly.
Mm,
So I found myself getting into the foundation world in a very peculiar social political time. So doing the foundation was to make sure that during that time when things really started to go downhill, that there was some extra formality involved with the hospital through the foundation, and then get him some support. And it was the foundation that has given that life back to him. So that's
so
the relationship between the two.
let me ask you this. So now I kind of get it. So your dad founded the hospital. Your
Yes.
entrepreneur input into it was creating the foundation to help
Yes, to
fund the
fund it.
hospital.
Yeah.
Perfect. I got it.
Yeah.
Got it. But yeah, but now because it's two different business, right?
Yeah, it is.
People may not realize that, but it's two different business. So in a nutshell, you're managing two different business.
Yeah.
One is the hospital, which is the physical value providing to people in there, and then you have to have a different marketing, a different personnel
Yes.
that is specialized for the foundation and market that so that they can understand the link between the two. But one doesn't work
Yes.
without the other, right?
No.
Without the foundations, you don't have enough money to help run the hospital,
No.
and people's time can only go so far. All right.
Yes.
And going back to the topic today that I want to discuss, why is it your moral duty? If you're watching it, it is your moral duty to make as much money as possible. Why? For the benefit of your own family, but also so that
Yeah.
you can share it with the cause that you believe the most. Right? Maybe you have a
Yeah.
different cause. Me personally, I don't know if if maybe in a previous life I was a homeless person, but I resonate a lot with homelessness. And if I wanna do maybe my first foundation that I'll do is probably going to be in this realm, helping homelessness and try to convert them into basically work with them in their mind and their self image so that they can be
Mhm.
and transform them into valuable assets for the society.
Mhm.
I have this dream of turning homeless men into a president. Like if I could make this
Oh
happen,
yes.
I would die a happy man. But that's just me personally. But at the same time, before we get there, right? It is going to
Mhm.
take a lot of effort, a lot of money. Before you get there, maybe if you're making money already, you can share it to other people. Last year I had a great year, so I made it my goal this year to share some of that to a
Mhm.
foundation that I believe. And your name came in. The first name that came into mind was yours. I've been
Thank you.
following you on social media for many years, so I see the work you put in going in Haiti in times of civil unrest and lack of security, and you still manage to make it happen. No
Yeah.
excuse. For me, you are the symbol for make something happen. No excuse happen because
No.
and I'm happy. I'm happy you can share that your perspective here today. But
Thank
so now,
you.
now I get the foundation part, and I wanted to we're going to transition to the foundation later, but I
Mhm.
wanted you to talk a little bit more about the hospital itself.
Mhm.
So is there like is it a general hospital? Is it for specific like a branch? Like is what would you can you talk a little bit more about the
Yes.
hospital and why it is needed in this community?
Okay. So the hospital offers, it cannot have a specific branch because of where we are. We're the only ones there. But I can say because of where we are, we have a lot of pregnancies, a lot of deliveries. We can specialize in women's
Mm,
and children and deliveries. So that's definitely children, a whole bunch of children. So pediatrics, women, delivery, that is going to be our focus. But it is a general hospital. It has to be. And we
mm-hmm,
have several departments that are still missing. Orthopedics is missing, physical therapy is missing. On the Instagram page, that baby in the top row in the middle, she's 1 years old. She doesn't look like it.
mm.
And she was a preemie, and in the
Oh, this
States, she would have had, yes, her. She would have been able to move around, roll around better. But a 6 month preemie in Haiti doesn't get what a 6 month preemie in the state gets.
one.
Not because the parents don't love them, any of that is because of the resources. So even though
Exactly.
we are a general hospital, we have key, and because we're the only ones, we have to have a little bit of everything. But the
Wow.
specializations are hard to get. Um,
Exactly.
it's hard to hire people. One,
Mm,
because of where we're located,
mm,
and two, because of the cost. We have to keep prices low for our patients because it's in Cite Soleil. They can't afford full care, which is where the foundations come in to help supplement the income. Um, and we pay those specialists right then and there to make
So,
their time worthwhile.
so for those who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about Cite Soleil? What is
Yeah.
it? Where, like, if you saw, you also mentioned that you're the only one there. Like, if you
Yeah.
had for gauge of times distance, do you would you know where is the next hospital? Like, how far it is? And tell us more about that part.
Okay. Cite Soleil in the 90s was just where the poorest people leaving the countryside were coming,
Mm,
because it was a sugarcane plantation area. There was sugarcane factories. There was a whole bunch of factories. So it was a place where the land workers could come and get started. But in the 90s, after the coup d'etat happened, the factories shut down, the agriculture shut down, and now you have people with no jobs,
mm,
nothing. And it, of course, what happens when you deprive people of their basic human needs, it becomes, their raw nature comes out. We call it violent, we call it barbaric. We put so many names on it, but we all have that in us, right? Once, if it's me versus you, at the end of the day, we all gonna have a me mentality. So this is Cite Soleil now, where things are so bad. The peace and love and the things that you would need for a community to thrive at its core doesn't exist. So I lead with that to say that it is still one of the a very volatile area because of gang and gang fighting. There's nothing else for them, right? So it's a territory. So Cite Soleil is now split into a whole bunch of gang territories, and it's they're trying to push in and push out. It's not really no other hospitals because this is the reality of Cite Soleil, and everyone also looks at it from a zoomed out point of view. No one really takes the time to see the individuals in it. So, which is where our hospital comes in. Where like everyone has this abstract view of it, but we have the dynamic view of it. The mothers who are coming in, the dads who come in their construction uniform with their sons. So it's like it's Cite Soleil in the news, which is true, but it's also Cite Soleil that I see. So it's so weird. It's raw, it's real, it's dangerous, but it's also sweet and loving. But it's real.
Like you
That's
said,
Cite
the
Soleil.
raw, yeah, the raw type emotion comes out, and
Human
sometimes
nature, yeah.
that raw human nature can be that nurturing parents that wants to do everything for their child
Yes.
despite
Yeah.
having the lack of resources. And wow, but that makes me have a even more of a deeper understanding of what's happening there, because me too, I grew up in Haiti, but to be
Hmm.
honest with you, I've never stepped foot in Cité Soleil. Even in
Yeah.
Haiti, people were saying that back then it was not a safe area to be around. So to
Yeah.
have the courage to even build an hospital there, where it become your jobs to walk in there,
Yeah.
defying the gangs if you have to, but
Yeah.
walk through and make it there. And how do you manage that? How do you find the strength to continue with that?
It's two things. Tuning it out, because at the end of the day, it has to get done.
Someone
And
has to do it.
someone has to do it. My dad, on his 58th birthday, gave me a speech. And the speech was two advice. And one of them was don't fuck up. I had no idea what that meant. And I was like, okay. And in English, with the Haitian accent. And then now I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't have the luxury to be scared or to bask in my fear, you
Mm,
know? So that's how you deal with it. It's like, okay, you acknowledge the fear, you allow the fear to make you more vigilant, more prudent, but you don't allow it to freeze you. And then the second thing, it goes back to faith. I had lost it for a minute, to be quite honest, because it's so frustrating seeing the churches. And if they really, I see what my dad did, my love, in 30 years, with his own money. So I know the frustration. I know if these institutions really wanted to, what could really be done. So I struggle with my faith. So to go back to the second thing
yeah.
I've done is to say, um, even though my dream is to be a grandma, if God sees that what I'm doing is up, like I've done enough, I thank Him for the 31, almost 32-year journey. You know, it's just you accept that every day with Haiti's reality. You don't know if you're gonna make it back home, but you accept that you literally went doing your childlike
Mm,
desires, and so you have to accept it. 50 Cent has a book, and he says it. He was like, "Imagine your worst way to die, and then get over it." So it's every day. It's traumatizing. It's exhilarating. It's everything at the same time. So this is a two-way. Tune it out and know that it's in
there is
God's
something.
hands.
Yeah,
So
there's something
yeah.
I want to bring it back because you mentioned, and you mentioned so casually, but
Mm,
hmm, this it could go again another podcast, but it could go
mhm.
as far as saying you were mentioning this is what your dad was able to do just with his bonus money. If
Right.
institutions really wanted to, how much could have been done?
Right.
Can you walk me through that more? Like, and I want to break that. What do you mean if they wanted to? Because institutions, from what we're saying, and let's say they give you those ads on the TV, they tell you you call this number to donate.
Hmm.
So what do you mean if institution really wanted to? Because from our perspective, if someone doesn't really know, it looks like they're marketing themselves as they want to help, right? So what do you mean by if
Hmm.
institution really wanted to?
I'm gonna go with the most respected ones, the oldest ones, the ones we see, with the great marketing budgets. I'm gonna start with those because we have 107 employees. And those 107 employees at the hospital have some sort of an economic stability. To me, I'm seeing no matter what happens at the hospital, my dad has made sure to pay these people every month, where our government does not do that. So
Hmm.
even if I start with our own selves, because my father always says, stop pointing the finger at the white man, at the international forces. It starts with us. There
Mm.
was some Haitian who gave the green light. So I'm gonna start with the Haitian institutions first. So when you look at the Haitians who are the billionaires,
No, mad
yeah,
respect. Mad respect for your dad. I say the same thing. Sorry, keep going.
yeah. No, we have billionaire institutions in Haiti, and their investments are elsewhere. Whereas if they really, really wanted to, we have one hospital. I'm trying to one hospital with his bonuses every time he got a contract. It took 30 years to get here. There are some people who could have funded building this everything we have today in 6 months.
Hmm.
Institutions, but it's not being done. I'm realizing the same way the American system needs you to be sick to depend on their pharmaceutical system. Over here in Haiti, they need you to be poor to depend on that raw human nature to keep people blind. Because our resources, I was like, this is a Caribbean island. I'm going on a small tangent. And somehow we all managed to convince that the real estate here with pristine beaches is worthless. Then is more. How did we get ourselves this lost to not see the value of a Caribbean island in a global changing world? Anyway, so that's that with the Haitian institutions. With the international ones, they've been here for 30, 40 years, raising money, disaster after disaster, but they're leaving these communities in the same economic state that they've. Yes, you built the home, and then what? Now she can't pay for the electricity. So why not build a grid, teach her how to work that grid, and create an income through that grid? So
Yeah, I just had an
the
idea. I had two ideas just from listening to you alone. Like, I'm like, okay, so it seems that the main problem started when the factory shut down. Like,
yes,
like labor, cheap labor. This is
yes,
probably one of the most valuable, other than time, when it comes to
yes,
economic factor, other than primary resource like oil. Cheap labor is can build empires. Cheap
yes.
labor.
And,
I mean,
let's not be let's be careful with the word cheap, because with inflation right now, the word cheap is scary. And then that's another mindset. I don't also I have to be careful with that narrative. Why we're talking about a hospital, right? And we focus on hiring people from the area. Why can't
mm,
we think the research labs? Because when we look at data, there's not that many data for people like me and you. Why can't we think the higher ones? We need researchers. We need anesthesiologists.
mm.
Why restrict our people automatically in the cheap paying job?
No, no, that's not what I meant by that is I wasn't even necessarily talking specifically for the
Okay,
hospital.
okay.
Actually, when you're talking about a
In
hospital,
general.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
when you talk about a hospital, you're talking about like getting the best. Like if you want the best treatment, if you want the best
Mm-hmm.
results, you got to get the best personnel. I was just thinking about, hey, for example, you do something like a factory, right? Where
Yes.
just that income alone
Yes.
can keep some level of stability
Yeah.
economically.
And mobility.
Yes.
Money
And
needs to circulate.
just from that alone, I'm thinking, man, I can think of at least two ideas right now that I can like, that could
And you
help.
see, that's what people don't do anymore. We hear Cite Soleil, and then it's like everything we went to the States or Canada to study goes out the window. All of a sudden, we can't apply anything.
Mm,
We can write the essays, we can do the presentations, we could do all of that and ace and get the degrees and the cords. But when it comes to applying it, we're all scared because we hear Cite Soleil.
yeah.
So
To
not
be
even
honest,
no one thinks.
I was a
No
victim of
one
that.
thinks.
I won't lie, right? I was a victim of that too. But and that's why I'm so grateful for your time today.
Thank you.
it starts with education. It starts
C'est
with
ça.
education, and me knowing from what I know now, I know that how entrepreneur works, how economic works. I've been doing my own studies on that realm and teach it to
Hmm.
new beginners. So I that motivates me now. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I can help with that. So thank you for sharing that. But
It's a
I
pleasure.
understand what you meant by the foundation, because it's true. It's true. The foundations, we hear them like NGOs, non-governmental organization. They comes in arms. They use Haiti as a way to validate their reason for existing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it seems somehow, no matter how you cut it, the real people that needs it the most, um, they don't seems to quite get it.
Mm-mm.
And that's one of the reason too why some people, they hear that, they see the results, they might be a little bit um don't want to go in and giving for their money away if it's not
Right.
going to be helpful, which is why when you do find someone who's genuine, right, then you want to latch to that person because they're rare and they're but I see that you come from, not just you from your own vision, but you come from a line in your family that it takes a certain courage to put your bonus
Yeah.
money back to an area that needs it a lot, that it's not really secure, safe, and build the level of strength, and now you build the legacy. And if I was your dad, I would be very proud to have someone taking
Thank
over the
you.
family business. So that's my dream as a dad. That's my dream as a
Yeah.
dad. So much respect for your dad. Much respect.
Thank you. I'll let him know.
Yeah. So thank you again for sharing this. Now, tell me a little bit more about the foundation. So we
Yeah.
understand the hospital, and before we switch, I wanted to
Mhm.
ask you, what if you had to guess, what would you be the closest hospital to where you are right now? Where would that be? Like, do you have an idea?
I can say in terms of minutes, not miles, because of
Yeah,
road
that's good.
conditions, etc. So it would be at least a 20-minute drive from our hospital. However, it's only a maternity hospital where women give birth on the floor. So
So you mean the next
the
hospital
next
20
one,
minute
yep,
drive
yep,
is women give birth on the floor.
on the floor. And the
So
quality
basically,
of the
if you did not
service,
have the hospital there,
yep,
everyone that lives in this area, they would have to
yep,
drive about 20 minutes to give
yep.
birth on the floor. So may as well as stay home in that case.
Yeah, and they do. They do. We have our prenatal deaths, our neonatal deaths are high in the area. It's gone down since we started giving birth at the hospital because now they're like, no, I'm not going to go give birth in that hospital. They start to turn to the older women who have no formal training. So now what we're trying to get into prevention. We actually invite the matrons to the hospital and give them the most minimal. We're like, hey, if she said she didn't feel movement for 24 hours, please tell her to come to the hospital because you don't want to disrespect the person. She's trusted. She's the elder, but she doesn't know what she's doing, but you don't want to say that. So we're like, if you know it's beyond these 10 bullet points that we tell you, please send her to the hospital. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
There's no one. There's literally, we're the main employers, not to say the only employers.
Let
The
me ask you
hospital.
this. In Cite Soleil, I mean, again,
Mhm.
sorry if I'm kind of like catching you off
No,
guard
you're
with these
fine.
questions, but for a sense of scale, Cite Soleil, how many people would you say lives in this area? Like if just a rough idea, right? Are we talking about millions? Are we talking about 10,000s? Somewhere in between?
No, we're in the six figures. I don't want to say because it's Cité Soleil is huge. It's a borough. It's a borough, so it's a whole bunch of
So
little cities
you would
and
estimate
slums.
that at least 100,000 people living there.
At least, at
And
least,
then, so now, just for sake of trying to break it down for the people listening here,
yeah.
because they may not even try to understand what's happening there. If you're living in comfort your entire life, you don't necessarily,
Mm,
it's hard for you to fathom what's happening here.
right,
So
right.
let me break it down to you guys. 100,000 people, right? In my area right now, that could be maybe about 10 kilometers diameter, like somewhere, all right? 100,000 people living in this area, no hospital,
Yeah.
no hospital. Meaning people are, they're doing stuff. I mean, who knows? They may not even have a pharmacy to have the socks there. So that
Hmm.
will probably raise the level of child being born in there. And then there is no hospital. And then I don't know if they even have cars, but if they do, they have to drive 20 minutes to get to the nearest hospital if she wasn't there in the area to help
Yep.
with this scenario. She will have to drive 20 minutes to give birth on the
On
floor.
the floor by
So
yourself.
no way.
Anyway, you're just physically, yeah. We're the only hospital that tell, just like in the States, who we treat people first.
Hmm,
In Haiti, you pay first. We've lost the man qui fait carrelage, who does ceramic flooring.
hmm.
His brother died at another a hospital. That's another 20 minutes up there. It's a general hospital. But he forgot his wallet in the middle of an asthma attack. And they let him die. They're like, sir, you didn't pay. You
Wow.
didn't pay. So I could tell you, even if we had, I could say within a 10-mile radius, we have 100 hospitals. Example, not true. But the people we serve can't afford it.
Hmm,
And it's a death sentence when you go to the hospital and you can't afford it. So,
hmm.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot.
Why is it your moral duty to make as much money as possible? Because when you don't, the world suffers.
Yeah.
That's the point of what I'm trying to make. It's not about, I know about talking about making money, keeping money, multiply money, but for what purpose? If you're making more
Yeah.
money than you need, more money for that, you can talk about your basic needs, food, shelter. If you can have a nice to have, maybe a car, right? Maybe a fun for your child. But can you take a small budget to invest that to in someone that can actually make it better so that they can actually help a population, right?
Yeah.
From that perspective, it really makes you think, and it doesn't necessarily have to take you like remove your level of comfort, but imagine, like, for example, hey, make a small budget of $50 a month. In your opinion, would that help a budget of $50 a month or $100 a month? Now, because I know now you're managing the foundation part
Yeah.
too. How does the money circulation work? What do you do with this money?
Okay. Because of the magnitude of the work, absolutely. $50 a month, $10 a month. But the key word or words here is a month. The
Hmm,
hospital, the foundation supports the hospital and a school. My favorite quote that I made up is the quickest way to heal a nation is through education. And I inherited the hospital. I wouldn't let it fail, but my passion is education. So I had to tie in a school. And École Mixte Petit Cœur de Jésus is a school in Cite Soleil as well. If you thought the hospital was struggling, they're struggling. So, absolutely, whatever it is, a month helps because now I can tell these people, I can get them out of the day to day survival mode. So even if they know, okay, I know $200 a month is coming, that's going to cover something that they don't have to worry about on there. So on that, but in terms of the foundation, if we're going to talk about move numbers that's going to move the conversations forward more efficiently,
mhm,
I don't have a come pity us conversation. Oh, look at poor us, poor me. My goal with this foundation is to do what these big ones refuse to do, not can't do, have it done
hmm,
and refuse to do, is
hmm,
to bring economic stability to the community. And you do that by involving the community to understand what they need. I came into this foundation thing, studied education, did my business classes. I'm like, yeah, dad, we're going to apply this strategy and that strategy. And he's like, little girl, okay. Harvard has nothing on Haiti,
hmm,
nothing on being here and doing it. So I had to take a step back and frame the foundation differently from others that impose their programs, their um limitations. I'm like, nah, he's been doing this for 31 years. How disrespectful is it of me to come in and say, oh, because of my degree, this. So I wanted to have the foundation be a supportive aspect of it. So every time someone donates, 70% of it goes into the immediate needs, which is what most foundations do. Give $5, it feeds a child. 70% address the immediate short term needs. We can't move away from that because they're barely holding on as we speak. 27% of it goes into program development. If I'm going to take the Red Cross, for example, for the programs that they launch, they were not created by, they were not developed by Haitians for Haitians,
Hmm.
neither were they developed in today's reality. Haiti has never been like this. So, one, why are we taking the perspective of someone who learned about us in a book? And then two, why weren't we involved in a decision making process? Why aren't we, what do you call it, at the executive level when it comes to developing these programs? And then lastly, why hasn't anything changed?
But the way you broke it down actually makes now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it's not necessarily that all foundation that goes there they have bad intention. Some of them could have good intention, but because of their corporate structure and the way
Yes.
that they build it, it's not adapt to it's not lean enough, it's not malleable enough
No.
to adapt to a volatile changing environment. And
Which is
so
Haiti.
though I love it's funny because as we engineers, that's how we operate. We dive in the problem and then
Yeah.
we walk ourselves back into the solution, right? But we
Yes.
dive in the problems first to understand what is the problem, right? What are all the use cases of these problems, and then imagine fast forward moving how this problem can affect 5-10 years down the line, and then from there
Yes.
you implement a system that can solve that. And I love the way you think because you may not think of the a doctor or an engineer, but you're actually approaching it very well with the engineering
Thank
philosophy.
you.
So shout out to you for that. Uh,
Thank you. So
no worries.
that's what we do. We give like the real time support. This is what you need. What I do is like, okay, just give me for the quarter. What do you, when I give you this money, however much it is we happen to raise that month, whenever that 70% makes it to you, can I at least have a summary of what you're going to do? Because you have to be able to show progress and
Mm,
provide data. But
mhm,
I'm not going to restrict you and say you must buy 50 bags of rice, knowing that 48 bags of rice might be enough in one bag of beans. But
hmm,
so I wanted to have that flexibility on there. And then it's again developing programs. We launch our technical school. That's the hospital talking. So I have to talk to foundation and hospital. The hospital launches technical school. We had an open house yesterday, and it was the young man who showed up, dreadheads, and just the people the news don't even give you a chance to realize are there.
mhm,
And then they're talking about, hey, I know you're doing this is great. I can't wait to come learn to be XYZ. But can we please do a sociology class?
hmm,
Because we don't know how to live with each other. And that was yesterday. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, these kids are thinking.
hmm,
It's just there's no opportunities for them. So why not involve them? Just like you have research studies,
hmm,
when people come and collect data, my mom is part of a research study for people who literally do no drugs, no alcohol at all, and how they age. She gets $50 per visit.
hmm,
That's when I say program development is why can't we, that's where I want to go with the foundation is how can we involve us in the decision making, in the problem solving, and then in that give you the economic stability and mobility that you need,
hmm.
because some people don't want to leave Cite Soleil. That's all they knew. That's all
Hmm.
they know.
That's
So
true.
yeah, this is that's the foundation.
Yeah, shout out to you. I
That's
was
the
just on the
foundation.
website and then going through it, and see what's so I see it changed the last time I was there. So and then
Yes.
you also have a PDF. We can dive. We can talk maybe a little bit about that if you want. But I also noticed that you also have a donation button right here that leads to a PayPal account. So very
Yes.
trustworthy platform. You can send your
See, we
donation
got the
to.
blue check.
Make
We're
sure you hit the blue
verified.
tick. And to be honest with you, I'm happy that we had this conversation. Like me, I actually wanted to do a stream like that to slowly encourage people to not just thinking about making money all the time, but on for what purpose, right? And if we
Hmm.
can give them a trustworthy person that is going to use that in the real world and make its way to, so why not, right? So me
Yeah.
personally, I thought that just giving like for example $100 or $1,000 would be good, but from what I hear, it makes sense that the monthly donation is much easier. Like you would,
Yes.
from what I hear, correct me if I'm wrong. Would you rather someone just give you a one-time donation of $1,000, or 10 or maybe 12 donations of $100, for example, and have that consistently coming for 20, 12, 24 months? Like which
Yes,
one?
12, 12 payments. We can plan because the second it comes in, it's gone. So if it's monthly, if it's recurring, we plan in the more long term. The
Mm,
when it comes in lumps, the urge is to use it on the short term needs. And that's what
exactly.
everybody does. So I'm like, nope,
Mm.
let's think this through. Let's think this through. You've made
And
it 31 years so far, so let's just be smart about this. So the monthly recurring
is
is the best for long term problem solving.
okay, perfect. Thank you for letting us know. Now I'm going to change my budget and
Thank
then make
you.
sure I hit that time button. Now, is there like a date that makes better, or like what how does it work for like income? Is it the first of the month that you rather have it, or some
Right.
is it okay to have it any day we want? Like what do
No,
you think?
it's whenever. It's
Okay, no,
whenever because it's based on it's your on your bottom line, on your financial model and your financial philosophy. So it's
and
just the recurring part of it.
just because I'm very curious, now
Mhm.
I understand the big cash goes to the short term needs, and then I guess the recurring goes to building the long term needs. Now, my question
Yes.
to you is, what are those needs? Like I remember you were saying, like let's say you have a budget of 50,000 for the month, like that would be
Hmm.
great. So, what would you do, and how would you break that down? Like, what percentage would go to what? Like, I'm just trying to understand those needs, and you don't have to
Yeah.
give like the whole breakdown, but just to give us an idea on what it's like to operating an hospital and where that
Yeah.
money goes.
So I'll start from the macro and zoom in. So from the foundations in, 70% goes straight to Haiti. And then from there, because we supported the hospital first, that 70% is split 70/30. I just keep it simple, 70/30. The
I,
hospital gets 70%. And then to zoom in a little bit on that one, sorry, it's
no
always,
worries, no worries.
okay. You can
As
hear
you,
me?
yeah, yeah, I can hear you, but
Okay.
as we wait for that ambulance, which is
Yeah,
probably
if
near your
it's an
hospital,
ambulance, it could be a
but
motorcycle.
yeah, but very it's funny that you mentioned 70/30. And I'll
Yeah.
talk to you offline about something that
Okay.
but I something happened to me in my life, and it's basically a mental breakdown that led to a manic episode.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things side effect of that is I was hallucinating, and then one of the things I hallucinate is I started a project called Project 7030. And in my dream world, which was very real to me, but people thought I was crazy,
Right.
and that's actually where I started the journey to find my purpose. But I basically saw myself making so much money that only 30% of my income could buy everything that I want. And then the 70% of that
Wow.
went to a foundation, making the world a better place. And I call it Project 7030. And it was in myself, I saw myself running that project, inspiring people to live on 30% of their income and give it 70% away. So
Oh, I was not expecting that.
I find that very interesting. That
So
your number
yeah,
two is
70
70
30.
30.
Garuka.
But yeah, we'll
But
talk
yeah.
about it offline. But interesting. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So 70% goes to Haiti, 30% what stays to
So,
run
so,
the
sorry, 70 goes to Haiti. That 70 is split into 70/30 again. 70 goes to the hospital. The things that we use the most at the hospital is the laboratory information. We get a lot of infections, a lot of STIs. So it's getting the solutes for the testing machines. Those are very costly, especially if you have a Chinese machine, you have to have the Chinese solutes. You have the American machines, you have to have when you find it, inflation, all of that depends. And then the
Mm,
daily, yeah, that's the chunk of the money goes into replenishing the daily supplies that we
Mm.
use the most at the hospital. And then the
And
next
because you
month, mhm,
specialize in a bit like giving birth, I guess those the is it like drugs? Like is it like tools, like solubes, or like what are we talking about exactly? The just to give us an idea of
yeah,
where that.
for lab, again, we have to do everything. So for the lab part is mostly everything for STIs, sexually transmitted infections. Pills for those is definitely, it goes out a lot. There's a high blood pressure, diabetes. They're the most common diseases that we diagnose, and we constantly have to replenish that.
Mm,
We know insulin, the price of insulin is going up. Those gloves, oh my gosh, gloves and tourniquets, cotton balls, the things that you have to, you can't, the things that in the developed countries that they say are single use,
mm,
except for the things that touch bodily fluid and liquids, they're not single use. So we use the nurses, they reuse gloves, they wash them in Clorox, and the same thing with the tourniquets. So these are the daily things. Food for the staff. We have a lot of our staff who lives in Matissa and Kafu, and they haven't been able to go home
mm.
because a lot of people died there. So now we have staff that stay at the hospital. That's extra electricity. That's extra food that you use for them, but it keeps them safe and you see them happier. It's an amazing thing to see. So the daily operational things, electricity, fuel, um, vehicles. Oh my gosh, you know the road conditions in Haiti. So mechanics use to keep the van going. You only have one van. So the money goes into literally survival mode.
And
That's
your
for the
dad started
hospital.
that with his bonus money?
But bonus money, yes, sir.
Sheesh.
And he's never stopped. His investment, I don't even like the rent. Literally, is the fee that I charge is what I get to live on. Everything else goes to the hospital.
Mm,
Everything else goes to the hospital. The school, we support. The biggest problem that it has is feeding the children. They might eat 3 times a week, and they hope that when they come to school is the day that they eat, and so the children might eat 1 time a day when they come to school. So for the school, that 30% is definitely going first. He splits his 30% into chunks as well. So I just tell him, just give me big numbers and a big idea. You see it happening. You again, they've been doing this for 31 years. So there's credibility there. So
mm.
food is where it goes at for the school. Payroll, and my nonprofit coach tells me, don't tell people they're paying for payroll. Nobody wants to take care. But I'm like, you have people who live in Cite Soleil who go through bullets to get to school. They get paid $35 a month. They're practically volunteering their time. I think it's okay to tell people that their money is going to making the quality of life of that person who's going to discourage a kid from picking up a gun better. Because if you're broke, there's only so much that you can pour out into the world. So, nutrition, payroll for the teachers, the classroom walls, you should see what they look like. It is almost, it's not what children need to develop properly. It's a school, it's a building, but it's not a school. So, I'd love when they get the money, if I can, I'll sum it up like that, is a way for me to see is what their vision is for the school, because it's not an idea problem, it's not a will problem. They've been doing this for 3 decades each separately without ever meeting each other. It's a
Hmm.
money problem. So now I'm like, here's the money and let me see. My dad's an engineer, so I see him build stuff. I hear him talk about it, which forces me to picture it. And then I see this man, like the next day, he's like, "Oh, I started construction," and then you see a chunk in the savings account, broop, gone. I'm like, damn, wait. And that's how he is. That's how the hospital has been like happening and stuff. So the foundation, the emotional side of it, if I can be honest, is to allow these two men to put their dreams down in real life. I want to see how far they can take it. The 27% is where I come in. Now let's develop the programs to make sure the teachers are highly qualified.
Mm.
Then they can go out and teach more children. Let's create That's so it's their vision and my vision, but the business aspect of it never ever ever disrupt the personal side of it never disrupts the business aspect of it because I will not be the one to mess up 31 years of work. I will not be the one to drop the ball. So that's where the
Wow.
money goes.
Well, man, that is a huge responsibility, but so
Mhm.
far I see that you're shouldering that with a lot of
Thank you.
strength, courage, and you mad respect to you, mad respect.
Thank you.
And I'm so honored to have you on this panel here,
Mhm.
and share. I wish we could do it live because I know there's many people that would have questions, but if
Oh,
possible, but we can probably join on the chat too, and then
yeah.
respond some people's question as we do it live. It's going to be a watch party when we watch it
Yeah.
there. So then I'll invite you there as well when we do it. But lastly, I wanted to say because I know I want to be respectful of your time. We're wrapping up towards an hour, and we
Mhm.
covered so much points. And I wish we had more time to dive even deeper into it. But hey, I'm someone who's very interested in cryptocurrencies. I think
Oh
cryptocurrencies is
Lord.
going to be the future.
Yeah. I know
And
nothing.
let me ask you this: do you see yourself one day accepting donation in cryptocurrencies?
Well, let me tell you. I know the bare minimum. I understand the concept of
Hmm.
cryptocurrency. But because I knew this foundation was going to make it, I was like, we have to. So, yes, I already set up a crypto account the day everything became legal in the States. And I got a nonprofit coach. I'm taking this very seriously. This is gonna work. So, my nonprofit coach is like, prepare yourself for everything real estate, crypto, everything is set up to receive everything. Like this is this is year 5. So yeah, we're ready.
Perfect, perfect. So I'll probably reach out to you separately to try to get your Bitcoin address, and then we'll put it.
I
I'll
don't
put it.
have that.
Well,
I
yeah,
just
don't
have a
worry.
Coinbase thing.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm something I'm very familiar, and I like to encourage people to.
Okay.
But let me give you an example why. Right.
Okay.
Let's say right you're using and I know this just you were using a platform like PayPal, right?
Mhm.
So I mean I wouldn't see a reason why PayPal would do that, but let's say PayPal they have the community guidelines and then they decide to change things, or let's say some presidents in Haiti decide to do something and then all of a sudden, I don't know if you're seeing what's happening in Russia right now.
Right, I
There
have.
is a war between Russia and Ukraine, and because the US doesn't necessarily approve of what happened, not just the US stops their sanctioning in terms of economic macroeconomic perspective, but the private companies are also sanctioning Russia
Right.
by leaving. We're talking about McDonald's, right? We're talking about Visa. Now, Visa cards, if you're Russian in the Russian population, you can no longer use that. And so many brands, global brands, are leaving the country, leaving the people there stranded. So it's the president war, but the people are taking the full brunt of
Right.
it, right? So imagine a case, and we have to assume that this is the new trend now. We have to assume that this is the new way of interaction, diplomacy. When diplomacy fails, that's the impact of it,
Mm.
right? Again, I'm not saying this will happen. I don't see a reason why PayPal would do that, but who knows, right? We're
You never
seeing it
know.
live. So this is where crypto comes in. This is where crypto comes in because it's its own platform, right? Just like you have a website here, and then you create an account on PayPal, and then you can send it directly to your bank account. So all those 3 steps that I mentioned, this is just a blockchain. All that is
Mhm.
in one blockchain. So when
Okay.
you have the blockchain, you also have the account, you have the wallet, and you also have the bank. This is what
Okay.
your address, your Bitcoin address represent. It
The 3
represents
of those.
all three. You
All right.
represent the bank that secures your money, that no one else can take it away. It
Mhm.
represents the website that people have to go to send you the money, and then it represents the wallet where you keep that money.
Got
So
it.
it's really a decentralized way of a new way also of making money, right?
Okay.
And countries like El Salvador that have their currencies, and you're probably going to relate with that when you compare the gold, which is the currency of of Haiti
Hmm.
versus the US dollar. Ever since we've been in Haiti, it just kept devaluating itself,
Yep.
right? So I remember at some point we was close to 100 good for $1.
Oh, we at
So
116, sir.
oh Lord. So but there was a time it was like 25,
Yeah,
25 good for one. The $1 stayed the same. What changes is the devaluation of it, and then now you need more Asian dollar to buy the same US dollar. So
that's also
imagine you were
devalued.
getting a
Yeah.
salary
Oh no.
on Asian
Yes.
currency, then your wealth just disappears, your purchase power just disappears over time,
Yes.
and all currency goes through that, including the US dollars. So even the US dollar has its time too. But that's the other part where Bitcoin comes in. It's because it's also a store of value. Because it's not regulated by any government, no one can print it as much as they
Mm.
do when they come to goods. So if you have one Bitcoin, it's going to be stay one Bitcoin, right? The value in US could change, but it's still one
One
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
And because with over time more people grabs them, the demand gets higher and the supplies actually reduce over time, then it increase the
What?
prices. And yeah,
Also, it's a there's a fixed number of Bitcoins out there.
there is a fixed number. There is 21 million bitcoins that will ever be created. I think right now we're like 18 million that's already
Oh.
in the market, and then the last 3 million, it might take like 90 years before we actually get to the 21 million bitcoin
Oh, okay.
minted. So just because the supply keep reducing all the time, every 4 years we cut
Hmm.
the supply by half, so that
What?
it lasts so long just before you print that those last 3 millions will take like literally a century.
Holy crap. Okay.
So that creates a level of stability, a level of that you can't just create as much as you want. Which
Mm-hmm.
and as the US dollar devalue itself, for
Mm-hmm.
example, war happened, you have to print so much US dollars, then it devalues everyone that were saving their money in US dollars. But now with Bitcoin, then you can just keep it and it could actually gain over time. So I definitely encourage you to um,
Yeah.
and again, I'm here. We can talk about it offline too. I remember you were definitely one of the first person who bought my technical investor
Yes.
course to support me. So I wanted to at least return the effort back and
Thank
support you back.
you.
And yes, and yeah, definitely say that at least bare minimum a Bitcoin account. That way you
Okay.
have a backup plan. The world eventually will get more familiar with that. They'll
Mm-hmm.
have the tools, just like you have a Cash App. It's going to be a same similar popular app to send and receive bitcoins. And then yeah, maybe that could be a way that you send your payroll or you convert it into some US dollar and then pay that. But you have different
Wow.
ways that you can
Yeah.
manage that.
If you can help me set it up, yes.
No worries, it will be my honor and privilege to do so. But
Thank you. Can I share this with you? This is a crazy one of those crazy dreams that I just have to tune out because nobody understood it when I said it when crypto just came out. I was like, what if I don't know how there's a way where people can pay for medical care in the Caribbean, specifically in Haiti, through a specific coin. Um, I don't know, I'll say CHF Foundation coin, but like a coin. But it's when you look at the Caribbean and the amount of traffic that still comes here, Haiti is virgin because of the instability. Everyone, when I keep saying Haiti, I really should fix my mouth and say Port-au-Prince, the capital. We have 10 departments, and
mm,
everything really happens in three, let's say four.
mm.
So it's like eventually, if things get better, people are gonna want just like DR. They're flocking down into the Caribbean, and so I was like, but the good is losing value, and I don't like the idea of using the devaluing U.S. Also, why can't we create something where all your
Oh,
medical care on the island
oh,
is
I've been
covered?
thinking about that for a long time.
Yeah, but
But you keep
here's the
going, keep
thing: I
going.
have the building, and I keep telling you could cut this off. I don't know how that works,
No,
but
no,
I was
don't
like,
worry.
this is the advantage that I have. I can leverage the actual building.
Mm.
A lot of people have great ideas, but don't know where to start in Haiti because you don't have the real estate stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, here you have a micro community in Fontaine, Cite Soleil, and they're willing. I'm listening to these young boys. They're willing to do it. They're willing to try. So I was like, we have such a unique opportunity to create this little micro city, and that's my vision for the foundation. It's pretty much what does it take to fix and flip a hospital in Haiti? Create a model, and then we sell that model to Red Cross, not us buy something that has nothing to do with us. So it's like, how do we create using Fontaine, using the hospital, using our resources, intellectual resources? Why don't we just put them, like, test them? Those programs that I'm talking about, we develop them, we test them, we give
I,
the ideas, we let the Haitians do it. The
I,
Haitians, we're
I know.
Haitian. The ones in Haiti do it.
I
And
know
then we fund it.
I
Yeah.
know you're running off time, right? But
Yeah, sorry. But it's
I'll
tangent.
just keep that very quickly in, because man, you're talking my language. Yeah.
It's
Whenever
been
it
in
comes,
my head, but no one gets it.
well, oh, I get it. I get it. Not only that is me. I think my one thing I noticed when I was finding my life purpose is I had
Mhm.
to accept that I was a visionary. Now,
Yes.
this is something that may sound a little bit arrogant, maybe pretentious, but
Mhm.
there is a skill that I have that is both a gift and a curse. But that
Mhm.
part of that gift is being able to see things on a large macro thing.
Yes.
I gravitate towards understanding how the world works, how countries works, and then I have to
Yeah.
scale it down to like it's easy for me to think that way. It's very hard for me to think in a classroom, for example, or just one building.
Yeah.
I work more like in the vision, but that's what visionaries do, right? And not only that, I can see things. Right now, I have a perfect vision 40 years down the line for Haiti.
Right.
But what I'm trying to train myself to do is pushing that to 100 years down the line. So
Mm.
one of the that this is not even a 40-year plan. This is maybe a 10-year plan that I
Mhm.
could do, or 15 max. Is just like you mentioned, a macro city, a city where you would do an experiment to run
Yeah.
a model, and then you could try different experiment in different cities, and then the model
Yes.
that works, you use that to replicate.
Nobody's
And
doing it.
don't worry,
Nobody's doing
I'm
it.
thinking about it. You know where I'm at right now in my life? I'm at my part where I'm trying to build my wealth so that I can free up my time to go try these things. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? To build
That's
the
how
real
it
estate.
works, though.
Yeah, to build
And
the
that
real
time
estate.
in between, it gives you that clarity. I had to go through that to quit teaching and focus. You have that time, that gap. That's where that clarity comes. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
read The Fifth Discipline.
Mm.
Your engineer mind would fall in love with that book. I am addicted to that book. The
Fifth
Fifth,
discipline. I'll go check it
what?
out.
It's a systems book. I read it. I was 27 years old. I said, let's go. Let's go. For the
Fifth
found
discipline.
the fifth discipline is the best for minds like ours. I'm like, holy crap, yes. It's
Yeah.
a thick book.
Don't worry. I don't do reading. That's one of the curse I have. I
Ah,
can't read, but
YouTube?
I'll do a audiobook. I consume
Yes.
audiobooks like this. But hey, just to give you an idea, what I break it down to is
Mhm.
there are four elements to building whether it's a community, whether it's country, whether it's an entire empire. You need a good system for healthcare, communication, food, right, and education.
Yes.
These four pillars, you have to have them to have just before you get to prosperity. You need to master these four pillars, right? So right now you would be on the healthcare part, on the Cite Soleil. So let's say we would do a macro city. So the next thing I would do as you're working on the education, I would work on the agriculture part
Yeah.
and self-sustaining part, and that in itself can be a business, right?
Yes.
You can make a business where you don't even need to export things. You just build food in to supply that 100,000 people, and you start only for from there and make that sustainable.
Yes.
Then you slowly scale it out there to, okay, can we go and target Port-au-Prince? Can we go and target the nearest state or department in Haiti, and then scale it that way, right? So that would
Yes.
be, so agriculture tie with business. Now once the business works, then you can different then you can create other business to meet the population needs. Lastly, communication. Now the communication part, especially with technology, it's the part that works, that makes it so easier. Now when you pair that with cryptocurrencies, you can have a messaging app that allows you also to send money. Now now this
You're
small
talking my language. Oh, okay. Sorry. Stop. Go.
this small feature, right now I'm a sales engineer, so I try to picture what is the one small feature that I can add that can have a massive impact on the entire industry, the least effort with the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And think about this way: imagine you have an app, right? You probably see Apple Pay that allows you to pay your merchant. So imagine also you can receive money from that same way. So
Mhm.
I have an account, I have a crypto account, right? I pay and then I receive it. Boom. That small feature of receiving cryptocurrencies as payment just by tapping your phone or sending it to an address or QR code, these technologies are already available. But that in itself can create an entire economy that
Yes.
you wouldn't even need to convert the cryptocurrencies in US dollars. You wouldn't need to convert the cryptocurrencies in Asian currencies, right? You would literally just pay yourself that way. And because the entire community works that way, so it doesn't give any incentive for people to get the cash. Because I'm
Yes.
like, if I go to groceries, I can tap my phone. And one thing we do know, no matter how poor people are in Haiti,
They
somehow
have a
they have a
phone.
cell phone in their hands, right?
Absolutely.
Somehow they manage to get their hands. So they already have the tools to have to start that small feature, which is a app that allows you to make and receive payments. And remember, cryptocurrencies, that also is your bank and your wallet. And then that's it. That way you can pay, if you start the business of agriculture, that you can pay them directly. It's called an airdrop, where you every month you can send money directly to their accounts. And then with that, they can go and pay with their hospital. They can go pay for education, and yeah, pay for food, shelter, and so on. And that's how
Oh,
you
we
go to.
have to talk. I can show you. I had typed this thing in 2018. I shared it with two people, and they looked at me like I was the dumbest person on the planet. The very first idea was I didn't know how to put it into words, but I love this philosopher, Cornell West, and he said you have to democratize education, and it's the same concept here. You have to democratize earning.
Mhm.
Because right now, because very few, there's a one very top small percentage of people who control all the money in Haiti. You have these young men going into gangs. You had, so I knew somehow crypto had to be involved to take that cash asset that they're using against. And I'll say this small tangent: the people in the gangs, they're 15, they're 14, 15, 16-year-old boys who are already physiologically undergoing their teenage boy hormones, vulnerable. And it's like when you contrast how we look at the people who walk into the theaters and kill people,
Mm.
and the schools, they're still due process, a mental health evaluation. But then when we look at our little black boys in Haiti, for some reason, because they're Haitian, we don't even think about the trauma, the actual trauma, not little Johnny not growing up with his mommy, which
Mm.
caused him to blow up a whole school. I'm talking about Haitian abject poverty. And we're
Mhm.
controlled by a very few who tell you, here's $2 to eat. So
Mhm.
freeing themselves, and that's another book, I know you hate it, but Pedagogy of the Oppressed is by this Brazilian. It's an amazing book. I'm sorry, I keep going on attention, but we have to democratize earning. And crypto, I didn't know how. I don't know more about crypto besides knowing that I knew it had to be involved in the foundation somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I don't know how. I don't know none of the blockchain stuff. I just know that it's a bank, a
uh,
website, and money now. That's
that
all I
that's
know about it.
that is one of my first projects. Like, I'm wrapping up my stuff so that maybe by next year I can start living off my own investments and free up my time. But one
Yeah.
of my goals is to take some of that money to build projects. And one of the projects I want to build is a simple app that allows you to make and receive payments on cryptocurrencies. That's it. That's all it is. And also a wallet. So yeah, I can send you money, you can keep it in your app, and then you can use that money to pay for stuff by either tap your phone or scan your QR code or something like that. Very simple concept. All the technology is already there. It's just a matter of hiring someone to put it all together for me. And then trust me, with that alone, that small features, you can start with a community. You can I can inspire people to donate, let's say, 100 Bitcoin to start that economy somewhere, right? They
Yeah.
need money. So you break it down into four. 25% go to education,
Mhm. Yes, yes,
25%
yes. And
goes
you
to
said it the
hospital.
teacher way. You I know you say you have the engineering mind, but then the way you broke it down, your four pillars, that's development. And a lot of people right now, because we're so excited about technology, we want to modernize before developing.
Hmm,
Putting that kind of technology
hmm,
in people who don't know how to live with each other, who don't know their own self-worth, who don't even know what being human means, it can also be dangerous. So
mhm,
it has to be education first. It has to be healthcare first. It has to be making sure they're not too hungry to where they'll be vulnerable to doing anything now for that app. So
mhm.
we have to develop those four pillars absolutely
Yeah.
before we modernize it. But again, I have the the hospital. We have a community that trusts us. It's been 31 years. By adding the school to it, the school is actually in the middle of Cite Soleil where all of that happens. So now I have two strategic communities in Cite Soleil that trust not me, but my dad and Monsieur Onel. So it's empowering them, but then we come in with our expertise and our resources. So we let them do them. We leverage their experience to now the Haitian way, because again, all these ideas won't work if we don't, because Haiti's so volatile
Hmm.
and stuff. So we come in and then we boost their work, but we got to make sure, like you said, those four pillars have to be good. So yeah,
Absolutely. But I know we've been a little bit past time,
I
but
know.
eh,
I'm
but we didn't
sorry.
even see the time goes. Uh, But
Sorry.
no, no, no. Me personally, I'm fine. It's just you,
Ah,
right? I
okay.
want to make sure I'm respectful of your time.
Oh,
But
it's not 7 p.m. As long as it's not 7 p.m., I'm wide awake.
all right, all right, all right. But thank you very much for your insight. And
It's
yes,
a
these
pleasure.
conversations are a
What
conversation that
happened to the picture?
we need to start and continue to have, right? Because conversation like that, they really that's how, because it seems our millennial people, especially in Haiti, the first thing they think about is flee. The one that can
Yes.
have the means to do it, the one that have the knowledge to change the country, they flee first. So we got to think about ways. And some of you may are watching on the channel here, you may not be in Haiti, right? Again, it goes back to the topic that I mentioned. Why make so much money, right? Because it extremes in anything is a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? If you
Yeah.
extreme in socialism is a bad thing, and we've seen a
Yeah.
lot of that in the world. But extreme in capitalism can be a bad things too, where hey, it leads to a community where the top 5-10% are controlling all the way, and they're
Yep.
actually greedy. They get greedy. That's also a basic human emotion that we can't really suppress. We have to. It's there. There is no way that we have to learn to deal with it. And how do you balance that? Well, I think the true way that we're going to have a society that works is to be somewhere in the middle. First,
Yeah.
you're going to need the capitalists to make the money, but then you also need the socialists to spend that money, right?
Right.
Socialism only spend the money capitalists make. But if you stay too much on the capitalism, you
Mm.
will force it will break down because there will be too many people that are not making enough money and a very few that are making too much money. But if you go too far on the other extreme, well, you have no more money to make, then more people are they're expecting that, right? You don't want to encourage a culture where people are just living off donations,
Yes.
because that is
Nope.
that can have a long lasting effect that could bring an entire country down. So you want to be somewhere in the middle where you always have this incentive to make money, but you also have this incentive to share that money with the people out there and make the community better. And conversations like that, and especially it forces us to think on how to make it better, make a community better. We learn about how our donation can help people in a real life, the new way that you have to think about foundation, that can solve an issue that we've seen. We hear the story of your dad, a man that was able to make a foundation, make it work just with his bonus money, and you have billion-dollar industries that are not
Yeah.
actually producing anything of value in the long term. So these are great conversation to have, and this is the route we need to take of actually solving it and making it and engineer the solution that we all want. And it all starts with money. It's not about how to make,
Yes.
keep, and multiply money, but for what purpose, right? And going back to how I started this, it is your moral duty to make as much money as possible, because if you don't, then the world suffers. The world doesn't get the need that you could have provide them. And from that perspective, I encourage most people out there to make as much money as possible. Now, before we wrap up, is there any last words you have, whether you want to talk about your foundation or maybe your
Mhm.
future projects? I'll make sure to add links to your website as well. And from now on, every video I post, there will be your link to your website and your PayPal as well on my videos. I want to do
Hmm.
as much as I can to help support you.
Thank you.
But is there anything, any last words you would have for
Let's
the
see. It's
audience?
pretty. Yeah. It's those of you with daughters, push them. Push your daughters. It's
In what way?
I like to say that a father's biggest ally. It's true. A father's biggest ally is his daughter, man. We grow
Really?
up. That man is like our superhero, and they pay attention. One thing about the politicians in Haiti, they're not realizing at some point their children are gonna grow up and
Mhm.
realize that they could have done something and did nothing. And I'm noticing the younger generation, they're very sensitive. The shows that coming out for your age, they it makes them be aware of the suffering out there. So your children are also watching how, yes, we're having a good time. Yes, the money allows all of that. I didn't see my dad a lot growing up. He was always in the streets hustling, and I suffered for it. And you keep that in you as a rebel teenager. And now in my 30s, I'm like, oh, okay, this
Mm.
is why. So to you fathers out here, if you have a goal in your life, make sure that you keep your integrity through all of it, because your children at some point, they're going to realize that things you could have contributed more some way. So give them something to look forward to. And I can say I'll proudly bury my father in Haiti and say his last name in a country where a lot of last names are soiled because their parents decided to take the wrong path. So, push your daughters, challenge your daughters. We're watching you. We want to be just like you. We want to be your superheroes. So that's what I want to say to you parents out there, especially dads. I don't think if I could just say how much daughters love their dads, it's crazy. So push your daughters, man. Don't baby them too much. Expect a lot out of them, but you're our safe space. So, and we'll help you. We'll help you when you're slowing down and gray. So yeah, be good dads.
Well, to be honest with you, I've been trying to run away from having daughters. But to be honest with you, listening to you, I know it's been a while we haven't talked, and listening to the conversation we've been having all day, I really make me consider that philosophy. So maybe the best way to do it is not educating them in the West, because Instagram these days, man.
Oh man, yeah,
This
no,
is,
no,
I
no,
don't know. It's not
nope.
encouraging. It's not encouraging guys like me to.
Yeah, no, but hey, either way, if you talk to him, my dad has always talked to me. Always honest. Like I said, his advice to me was don't fuck up. And I
Mm,
was and left. That's it. I had to figure it out.
mm,
You don't have to paint your nails and do all the cute TikTok stuff. Talk to us.
mm.
Talk
That's
to your daughter. We'll be wise enough to choose. Just be honest.
awesome.
But yeah,
Awesome.
that's
All
it.
right. Well, thank you very much. Again, I'll have links to our Instagram if you want to learn more, if you want to follow our work, the website, the PayPal donation, and yeah, we'll work on the other side on Bitcoin. And I hope that conversation
Yes,
also
please.
maybe help you see the bigger picture of how
It did.
cryptocurrencies can help you scale or can help you move on the future. And at the same time, thank you very much for your insight in the
Thank
inner
you.
workings of foundation and interdynamics with receiving the money and how it is applied and actually create some
Yes.
things. And we understand now, at least from the Asian perspective, on why even though big organization coming with $1 billion doesn't necessarily uh, achieve something of to that stays there because of their big corporate structure. And I know that very well because big corporate structure can be very efficient in one things, but when that
Yep.
industry change, you become vulnerable and yes, exposed. And we see that happen, and that has real impacts to real people that could benefit from
It
this.
does.
So again, guys, make sure you make as much money as possible. Project 70/30. Try to get to a
I
point where
love that.
30% of your income can buy your private jet, so that 70% of that can be given away to people that needs it the most. And maybe you can eventually get to a point where we build a community with the foundations that we talked about today, self-sustaining, and
Yes.
get to the point where we can start the prosperity journey. Right, that's my goal, my dream in this life. And I encourage people to start thinking that way too, especially
Yeah.
millennials, and help other countries to be prosper as well. So with that
Thank
said, thank
you.
you, Karine, Mrs.
Thank
Karine
you.
Ulysse, for being here. Thank you for your show of strength and your wisdom and your insight as well. Very young yet very achieved, and lots of experience that you have at a very young age. So the future
Yes.
can only be brighter for you, and we'll be following you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll make you guys proud. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being accommodating. And thank you for what you do. Education is everything. Thank you.
All right, all right. Thank you. All right, guys, everyone. Again, I'll be again on the chat, but have a good day, and we'll be meeting on the next episode. Bye.
Hey, yeah. It's all about wealth engineering. Might be something that you're not used to. It's okay, cause I'm here to introduce you to concepts. Time to grow and make big moves. All about crypto, come see. Stocks in business, yes indeed. Got the info that you need. Hosted by my homie JC. Hey, yeah. Wealth engineering. Stacking and stacking it up. It's time to generate wealth. Till you living like Scrooge McDuck.